The next day, the tension building in the old house was suddenly, jarringly paused for a Target run. It felt like a bizarre screwball comedy detour. Lowen grabbed tampons while Jeremy shopped for groceries. When she found him, he was cornered against a freezer by two attractive women, friends of Verity's. They were suspicious of Lowen, their questions pointed and rude. Jeremy, with a calm, cutting wit, dismantled them, confusing one woman's husband's name with another man's. As they walked away, Lowen was impressed. "That was such an epic burn," she laughed. The moment was light, fun, and then it was over, swallowed back up by the oppressive silence of the Crowley house. The fun evaporated the next day. A scream tore through the house. "Crew!" It was coming from Verity's room. Lowen raced up the stairs and burst through the door. Crew was on the floor, holding his chin, blood seeping through his fingers. A small paring knife lay on the rug beside him. The cut was small, but the implications were huge. "Did you cut yourself with a knife?" she asked, her voice trembling. Crew shook his head, his eyes wide. "Mommy says I'm not supposed to touch her knife." Lowen froze. "Your mommy says that? Does your mommy talk to you?" Crew just shook his head. Jeremy arrived, took in the scene, and asked Crew what happened. The boy said he'd just fallen off the bed. Lowen covered for him, saying she'd assumed about the knife. Jeremy asked her to go find it. She searched Verity's room, looking under the bed. When she stood up, Verity's head had turned, her eyes wide open and staring directly at her. Lowen fled, her heart hammering. "I can't stay in this house another minute," she thought, but she had nowhere to go. The manuscript was her only escape, and she dove back in. She read about the twins' birth. Verity felt nothing for them. Disgust, annoyance, but no love. She resented Jeremy's joy. She described turning off the baby monitors after he left for work and putting in earplugs, letting them cry for hours. She'd wake up an hour before he got home, feed them, bathe them, and play the part of the devoted mother. She read about Verity seducing Jeremy weeks after the C-section, against doctor's orders. For an hour and a half, Lowen cringed, waiting for the scar to rip open, for the gore Colleen Hoover kept hinting at but never delivering. Then came the chapter that broke her. Verity described a nightmare. She dreamed that Harper was suffocating Chastine with a pillow. She woke up, disturbed, and in a moment of rare, genuine maternal concern, went to the nursery. It was Harper who was crying. Disappointed, she picked up Chastine to cuddle her, ignoring Harper. Her mind churned on the dream. What if it was a premonition? What if Harper was the danger? The thought crystallized into a terrifying resolve. She needed to protect Chastine from Harper. She walked over to Harper's crib. She put her fingers down the baby's throat, holding them there, waiting for the crying to stop, for the tiny body to go stiff. She was going to kill her own daughter. Only Jeremy walking in stopped her. She yanked her fingers out just in time, pressing the gasping, vomiting baby to her chest. He never saw. He soothed Harper, put her back to bed, and plugged the baby monitor back in. Verity panicked, but then realized the monitor had been unplugged. He hadn't seen a thing. He had no idea that he had just saved his daughter's life. Lowen slammed the manuscript shut, her stomach heaving. She felt sick, dizzy. A murderer. The woman was a cold-blooded murderer. Just then, Jeremy's voice floated up the stairs. "I made margaritas and tacos," and just like that, the horror was forgotten. They had a romantic evening on the patio talking about writing, about validation. He confessed that he'd never read Verity's books after the first one because they disturbed him. He told Lowen that her writing mattered to him. It was phenomenal. He walked her to her room, locked her in, and she slid down the door with a happy sigh, cozying up in bed with another chapter, the image of attempted murder fading like a bad dream. The margaritas must have been strong. The next chapters were, in Lowen's own words, boring. Chapter after chapter of detailed sex with Jeremy. She was bored. She wanted more attempted murder, more chaos. She got her wish. The next chapter detailed how Crew was conceived. After an argument where Jeremy accused her of favoring Chastine, Verity lied and said she was pregnant to prove she was a good mother. She then had 2 weeks to get pregnant or fake a miscarriage. The sheer insanity of it was almost funny. Later that night, Jeremy made Lowen a birthday cake. They watched TV, and when she got chocolate on her lip, he wiped it off. The touch led to a kiss, which led to them tearing each other's clothes off on the couch. His mouth was on her breast when she looked up. Verity was standing at the top of the stairs. Her fists were clenched at her sides. She stared for a moment, then rushed back to her room. Lowen screamed, shoving Jeremy off her. "Verity, I saw her, at the top of the stairs." Jeremy was incredulous. "She can't walk, Lowen." "I know what I saw." He went to check, but of course, Verity was in her bed, perfectly still. He dismissed it as guilt and exhaustion. But Lowen's paranoia was a roaring fire. She asked him point blank, could she be faking it? He hesitated. "I saw the scans. No one could fake that." But she didn't believe him. She kept reading. The manuscript detailed Verity's reaction to Chastine's death. It was a genuine tragedy at a sleepover, a simple, horrible accident. But Verity's mind twisted it. She immediately suspected Harper, fantasizing that if only her own murder attempt had worked, Chastine would still be alive. It was bonkers. The next day, Lowen tested Verity. She threw a wooden ball near her chair. No flinch. But then in the kitchen, she noticed the TV in the living room was on mute. She called for Jeremy. His voice came from upstairs. He hadn't done it. Only Verity could have muted it. Lowen marched into the living room and stood over the catatonic woman. "You're a fucking cunt. You don't even deserve the body you're trapped in. I hope you die with your throat full of your own vomit, the same way you tried to kill your infant daughter." She waited for a reaction, a flinch, anything. Nothing. She leaned in closer, her lips to Verity's ear. "Jeremy is going to fuck you in your bed tonight." Still nothing. The only response was the faint smell of urine. Verity had wet herself. It was either a genuine biological function or the most committed acting job in history.
That night, Lowen convinced Jeremy to put Verity in a home. As they talked about what he wanted, he said, "I want you." They fell into each other, and for the first time, they had sex in the master bedroom, on the bed with the bitten headboard. Lowen, riding him, stared at the marks. She felt a sudden, bizarre urge to add her own, to bite harder, to leave her mark on his wife's legacy. They fell asleep in each other's arms. They woke to a nightmare. The door was locked from the outside. Jeremy panicked, realizing Crew was alone and vulnerable. He punched through the window, climbed out, and ran to Verity's room. He found Crew there, asleep in bed with his mother, completely fine. But someone had locked that door. Lowen read the final chapter. It detailed the day Harper died. Jeremy had gone grocery shopping. Verity took Crew and Harper out in the canoe. As they floated on the lake, she plotted. Harper couldn't swim. She told Crew, her voice calm, "Crew, sweetie, hold your breath." Then she tipped the boat. She grabbed Crew and swam for shore, leaving Harper to drown. Only when Crew started screaming did she go back, putting on a show of hysteria for when Jeremy arrived. Harper was found caught in a fishing net, dead for over half an hour. The last lines of the manuscript were Verity's chilling thought as Jeremy held their daughter's body, sobbing, "Am I at the end of my story? I don't know what happens next. Maybe he'll want me to suffer for what I did to her. And if that's the case, so be it. I'll just drive my car into a tree." Lowen gasped. Jeremy had read this. He knew. He had suspected her of murdering Harper this whole time. He came home with Crew, who needed stitches for a cut on his gum. Lowen didn't tell him what she'd just read. Instead, she went to the basement and grabbed the old baby monitors. She placed one in Verity's room and watched. For over an hour, nothing. Then, Verity moved. She rolled onto her hands and knees and began frantically digging at a loose floorboard. Lowen screamed for Jeremy. He ran downstairs just as she raced up to Verity's room with a kitchen knife. She burst in, brandishing the knife, screaming at Verity to get up. Jeremy followed, finding Lowen pulling at Verity's legs. He pulled her off, furious. She tried to tell him about the monitor, but he didn't believe her. He told her to get out of his house. Desperate, she grabbed the manuscript and shoved it at him. "Please, read the last few pages. Please, you deserve to know the truth." He took it to his room. Minutes later, she heard him crying, then heavy footsteps stomping toward Verity's room. She followed. He stood over Verity's bed, the manuscript in his hand. "Verity, if you don't answer me, I'm calling the police." Silence. He pulled open her eyelid, stared into the vacant eye, then walked toward the door. He paused, turned, and walked back to her. "When I walk out of this room, I'm taking this straight to the police. They'll put you away. You'll never see me or Crew again if you don't open your eyes and tell me what's going on right now." Seconds ticked by. Lowen held her breath. Then Verity's eyes opened. She held up her hands. "Please don't hurt me. I'll explain everything." The dam broke. Jeremy lunged. He grabbed her by the leg, yanked her back onto the bed when she tried to escape. He covered her mouth as she screamed, his hand circling her throat. They struggled, but he was too strong. Lowen rushed to him, trying to pull him off. "You're crushing her windpipe. They'll know you killed her." Tears streamed down his face. "She killed our daughter, Lowen. Think about Crew. Your son will not have a father if you do this." His eyes met hers, a silent plea for help. Not to call 911, but to find a way out, to finish it. "You have to make this look like an accident," whispered Lowen. "Make her vomit, cover her nose and mouth until she stops breathing. It'll look like she aspirated in her sleep." She heard the gagging, then the choking. It felt like it went on forever. Then the sounds of struggle stopped. The room was filled with only 2 people breathing. Jeremy repeated it like a mantra, his voice hollow. "Verity died in her sleep. Verity died in her sleep. We're never going to talk about this ever again." 7 months later, Lowen was living with Jeremy. She was also pregnant. The house in Vermont had been sold, and they were moving to North Carolina. On their last day back, packing up the remaining boxes, Crew ran upstairs. "I almost forgot. I have to get my stuff out of Mom's floor." He came back down with a stack of his old drawings. "She used to keep them in the floor," he said, handing them to Lowen. A memory slammed into her. The night on the baby monitor, Verity on her hands and knees digging at the floorboard. She ran upstairs to the empty bedroom. A loose floorboard was out of place. She knelt down, reached into the dark space, and felt around. Her fingers touched an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter addressed to Jeremy. With trembling hands, she began to read. It was a confession of a different kind. Verity wrote that the entire manuscript was a lie. It was a writing exercise, something her editor suggested called antagonistic journaling, writing about your life from the perspective of your worst self. She'd only written it to explore a dark place after Harper's death, as a form of therapy. She never thought Jeremy would read it. She explained the canoe incident. She did tell Crew to hold his breath, but it was to prepare him as the boat tip, not as a signal. Her focus was on him. She thought Harper, who could swim, would be fine. The apology was laced with a writer's arrogance, an inability to explain the creative mind to a non-writer. Then came the true horror. The morning after Jeremy had read the manuscript, he came into her room. She was awake. She tried to explain, but he didn't listen. He lunged at her and strangled her until she blacked out. When she woke up, she was in the passenger seat of her Range Rover, her hands and feet bound with tape. Jeremy was behind the wheel with a look of grim determination. He crashed the car into a tree. He had tried to kill her, to make it look like the suicide she'd written about. She survived, but when she woke in the hospital, she saw him standing over her, still filled with murderous rage. So she pretended. She faked the brain damage, the paralysis. She let them wipe her, feed her, treat her like an infant, all to stay alive until she could figure out a way to escape with Crew. She was leaving this letter as a record of the truth, hoping he would find it and know that he had tried to murder her innocent wife. Lowen finished the letter, her mind reeling. 2 truths, 2 horrifying, incompatible truths. Which one was real? Was Verity a master manipulator, writing one final lie to cover her tracks? Or was Jeremy a man who murdered his wife based on a work of fiction? She looked at the letter in her hand. She thought of Jeremy, of the life they were building, of the baby in their belly. If he found out he might have killed an innocent woman, it would destroy him. It would destroy them. She went into the bathroom. She tore the letter into tiny pieces. She flushed some down the toilet. She ate others, the paper dissolving on her tongue. She would never tell him. She had no idea what to believe, so why put him through more anguish? The book ended not with a scream, but with a swallowed secret, a final chilling thought from Lowen.
No matter which way you look at it, Verity was a master at manipulating the truth. The only question that remains is which truth was she manipulating? It was a question she would never have to answer. The door opened and Jeremy called her name. She walked out of the bathroom and into her new life, the taste of paper still on her lips.